Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's a pleasure to be here in Cairo. It is the city where I studied medicine, and it is always a pleasure to be back here. I would like to introduce our first speaker of the day. He is well known to you. I don't need a lot to introduce him. Professor Nam Han Cho, the professor of diabetes and internal medicine, and he is the president of the International Diabetes Federation. So let's welcome Professor Nam Cho.
Thank you, Dr. Majani, for your introduction. Again, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Shelter for successfully hosting this wonderful meeting. This morning, I would like to talk about the global epidemic of diabetes and why we're facing epidemics these days. We have a remote control here for use. Okay. All of you seen this slide from many times. The diabetes increasing is so rapidly and we cannot keep up with them. Since it is embargoed until November 14th, World Diabetes Day, I cannot give an exact figures how much it is increased compared to 2017 figure. But briefly telling you, every second there's somebody diagnosing with diabetes out in the world. This is how fast it is increasing. So we are war on diabetes and we are losing work. And why? This is the figure I'd like to share with you. This is actual figures that are formulated since 1970 in Korea until last year. Look at those blue lines. Those are prevalence of diabetes, number of cases. If you look at the right side blue, the Y bar, it's less than 1% that were counted with diabetes in 1970. But as the economic growth, that's the red line is showing, 2018, per person in Korea, their income is more than 30,000 USD. Look at the figure of diabetes, more than 12% prevalence of diabetes in Korea. So economic growth is good, but not all that good when you look at the disease-related issues. Here's the why. If you look at diabetes by residency, 2/3 of the people with diabetes live in urban areas, and this number will increase to 3/4 by 2025. 2017, when I reported ACE Diabetes Atlas, we counted almost 280 million people living in urban area. By 2045, that number will be increasing 473 million. And that number is underestimated. Already seeing that number is much higher than 473 million. Here's another fact. Look at the number of those diabetes coming from low and middle income countries. 4 out of 5 people with diabetes live in low and middle income countries. Here's the fact that we have to face in the future in challenge. Look at the numbers, top 10 countries, China and India and so on. By 2040, that number, the country stays China and India. But look at the figures here. If you look at the China and India together, that accounts for almost 180 million people. That is 43% of the total diabetes cases in the world. In the future, the number of Chinese with diabetes will increase about 37.3%. But look at the figures in India. Twice bigger than in China, 78.5%. So there will be large increment in more of Southeast Asian ethnicity. Also that includes the MENA region, and you have seen the most recent report. If you're combining diabetes and pre-diabetes, more than 40%. I've seen similar figures in Kuwait and Pakistan as well. So why from low and middle income countries there's rapidly increasing it? Simple answer is because of the undiagnosed cases. If you look at the average case, low income countries, the percentage of about 70%. 70% of people are undiagnosed. As the economic development occurs in this low income and middle income country, all those undiagnosed cases will come then there will be more cases that will be diagnosed from the low-income countries. So how we could win the war against the diabetes? Let me give you the formula or the picture show how we could win the war. This is the figure. It's the diabetes and prevention and intervention model. All of you have been hearing so much about the prevention, but let me tell you what. We failed the prevention model. We made the prevention model 30 years ago, but why still the diabetes increasing? Not just increasing, but rapidly increasing. Number of the new cases are increasing it. Of course, the management of diabetes better, so prevalence cases accumulated, so we have a huge number of people with the diabetes. So here's the way we approach these issues. If you look at the low part, general population, yes, prevention is very effective, but very costly. So through the prevention, we could campaign awareness, create an education program, and also do the screening in general population. But when you go into the high-risk population, just like older population, people with a previous history, gestational diabetes, or other factors they are in high for risk of diabetes, instead of going to prevention, we need to go into intervention. We need to focus on these people for in their lifestyle. You could try the pharmacotherapy at early stage. Also, we could do the personalized, focused education instead of have a general education. Then we could move on to a higher level, which is people living with diabetes. People living with diabetes, what we are afraid of? Complication. Yes, all of you knows. So we need to do both intervention, prevention in these people to stop complication and early mortality. But the fact is, we are applying general method to this individual. No, that is no. We have to do the palliative management scheme, which is based on their socioeconomic status. You apply very expensive the management or the treatment in a low-income group, you're going to fail it because they cannot afford to buy medicine. So you need to combine patient-specific education program, including a therapy. So here's a prevention or intervention where you could apply. If you compare the prevention and intervention, the best is for the prevention is communicable disease, infectious disease. It's very effective. But for the non-communicable disease like the diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and all those things, then it is better to use intervention because it's cheaper and faster. You can see here. Result time is much longer for prevention case. Intervention is shorter. For the cost of the prevention program is very expensive because you have to focus in general population. But intervention is much cheaper. Also targeted, the prevention is more general population, but intervention is for the more focused population. Impact is much less for prevention, but intervention is much higher. Effectiveness is best for the prevention if you apply it from the primary school age group, from the young age group, and the intervention is more age specific. So how to apply all this? Let's start with the pre-diabetes case. And in parentheses, I put the benign diabetes. Let me tell you why it's benign diabetes. We've all been calling pre-diabetes. Why are we still using the term pre-diabetes instead of benign diabetes? What I mean as a benign diabetes, when you see this picture, look at those one in the middle. Normal cases are split into hypertension, hyperglycemia, hypertriglyceridemia, and the diabetes retinopathy. Look at the figures in the normal group. Also look at the figures in IGT group. This is the people we've been calling pre-diabetes. They're already exposed to many things. The diabetes retinopathy is 0.7% compared to diabetes 3.7. Why were you calling pre? When you apply the pre, that means they are normal. I bring this issue to Minister of Korea. They say it is illegal to apply the single 5 milligram metformin to these people because they are normal. They are not normal. So we're using the wrong terminology to sort of put them under the water. Why not calling benign diabetes just like a tumor? When you're diagnosed with a benign tumor, what do? You are alerting your health. You seek for frequent medical and regular visits to the hospital. Can we start calling the same way, benign diabetes rather than pre-diabetes? Because they are already exposed, they are already starting diabetes. Look at these figures, how many people we have with benign diabetes. 2017, in AIDS diabetes had 352 million affected with diabetes. So what's big deal about these people? Look at these figures. This is what we published in Korean data. If you follow those people with the IFG, IGT, or a combination of both IFG, IGT, in average, 57% of those individuals will develop diabetes in next 14 years. So if you go to half of those people will develop diabetes. If you apply this intervention program at early stage, we could reduce this diabetes tsunami. And if you look at these individuals controlling other risk factors, look at those. IFG, IGT condition, they are 10 times greater risk for developing diabetes compared to individual without condition. 10 times, that is 1,000%. So why intervene, and is there evidence for it? Yes, we have seen it enough. You have seen all these studies, and if you look at the top portion of it, based on lifestyle modification, this high-risk population will be able to reduce 29 to 67%. But how difficult is it to apply the intervention or lifestyle modification? Yes, it is very difficult. It's not too easy. I'm pretty sure you tried same the way to prevent diabetes to your patient, and what percent of their patients successfully come back with the modifying their lifestyle? Very low, right? Then why not apply low-dose medication, which is showing the low level with the medication issues. They apply with the metformin, alcohols, and sort of things. Look at the figures, 25 to 81% reduction of developing diabetes. So there is room for us to stop diabetes from this high-risk population. So, what's the best way to decide the low-dose the medication treatment to this high-risk population? Of course, primary the target is try to utilize risk factors to reduce diabetes risk factors. And there's numerous risk factors, but I'm going to focus on lifestyle risk factors. This is smoking-related diabetes. If you look at crude rate, which is yellow bar, as you could see, never smoker versus past smokers, smoke less than 20 cigarettes per day, greater than 20 cigarettes per day, the risk of developing diabetes continues to increase. Even the controlling of the other potential risk factors, they are more than 1.6% greater risk of developing diabetes in smokers. Not just in smokers, we try to look at it. Just smoking, so what is smoking got to do with diabetes? So we look at more closely, try to find out what it is. Look very busy, but look at those figures. ISI is insulin sensitivity, IGI is insulin secretion, okay? If you look at the non, it's far left side. Look at what happened to this individual at the baseline and follow them for 14 years, what is changing. Individuals' insulin sensitivity dropped 30% in non-smokers, non-smokers, but what happened? Insulin secretion increased to 14%. Look at what happened in the ex-smokers, smoking less than 1 pack, smoking greater than 1 pack. Their insulin sensitivity is decreasing just like normal, but look at what happened. Instead of increasing insulin secretion in a smoker, they are decreasing it. 7% in ex-smokers and 9% in less than 1 pack per day, and 15% if they are smoking more than 1 week. So what happens is smoking has an impact on insulin secretion. So they are developing diabetes because they are impairing their insulin secretion ability. What about the alcohol-related issues? Alcohol involving, in fact, here's the grain alcohol is like 300 milliliter bottle, and if they drink less than 1, greater than 2, 3 times per week, more than 4 times, their risk increase. But if you drink more, this is 1.5 bottle, there's more than 2 bottles, look at what happens. Drinking individual who drinks every day, heavily drinking, even if they drink once a week, they are risk for developing diabetes. So heavy drinking is related to the risk of diabetes. So if you're combining these risk factors together, habitual risk factors, diabetes and smoking, look at these figures. Very nice linear increment with the amount of alcohol drinking and smoking. Non-smoker is blue bar, ex-smoker is green bar, red bar, and current smoker. You could see that there's additive effect in a smoker and drinking alcohol. So having both smoking and drinking alcohol, they're almost 1.8 times greater risk for developing future diabetes. This is not a prevalence. This is instance newly developing diabetes. So we also look at these people splitting into the two groups. So here's the fact, individual with benign diabetes in the middle, their reference, and we identified some of these people converted to the normal during this 14-year follow-up period, and some individuals developed diabetes. So we tried to find out what is discriminating this individual, go to the normal, one goes to diabetes. And you could see people living in an urban area, they're developing diabetes, they're converting to the rural area, they're converting to the normal. But they live in urban area, they're developing diabetes. So they clearly shows there is lifestyle difference in living in a rural area versus urban area. Another factor is look at the smoking. Smoking is risk, again, showing the risk for developing diabetes from IGT or the benign diabetes to diabetes. And here's waist circumference. If you reduce the waist circumference, then you're protected, you go back to the normal. And then improve the insulin sensitivity, improve the beta cell function, you're going back to the normal. Whereas if you decrease the insulin sensitivity and then decrease the insulin secretion, you'll be able to developing diabetes. And all other factors are there related with converting to the normal and developing diabetes. So another area is identification undiagnosed case by utilizing risk factors to stop diabetes. And one of the ways it is do is all of you knows utilizing metabolic syndrome criteria. Where on those individuals who has more than 3 positive in metabolic syndrome, the risk for them to developing diabetes in the next 14 years more than 30%. If they have more than 4 plus, 50% will develop diabetes, independent of other risk factors. If you look at the top line. 1.55-fold increased risk of diabetes if you have metabolic syndrome. So we know there's a way to detect this individual and apply early intervention. And I have a hypothetical model. What if we reduce metabolic syndrome, each component, see what happens? If you look at the far left side, this is the individual who's diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. The risk for them to developing diabetes in the next 10 years is 35.2%. But if we just reduce 10% of waist circumference, that number will reduce to 22.3%. If you reduce 10% of triglyceride, 31.5%, HDL 30.1%, blood pressure 25.9%, fasting glucose only 30.45%. Very minimal change. So which area will be targeting to intervene these individuals? Absolutely, individual who has high waist circumference, then we'll be able to reduce it to the 50%. So if you reduce the 10% in all this metabolic syndrome criteria, only 9.3% will develop diabetes in the next 10 years. So what is more successful than this? It is your choice. So my summary and conclusion is no disease has affected human life stronger than diabetes. Diabetes is currently unstoppable, and there is a need to intervene higher risk population. Yes, intervene, not a prevention. There is more than enough evidence to show the intervention of a modified risk factor results in a significant improvement in glucose metabolism. So in conclusion, intervention, which is lifestyle, habitual, and low-dose medication of a high-risk population and with a personalized education plan along with early management may be the solution to diabetes tsunami in the future. So this is my last message to all of you. If one can properly control the diabetes epidemic, non-communicable disease will be controlled. If not, one has to face the non-communicable disease tsunami as well, not just diabetes. And with my staff, thank you very much for your attention.